Behold, my glorious supporter EyePatchNotes has requested some discussion about, well, not this exactly, we'll come back to this subtitle, anime swimsuits. Now, you, listener, viewer, may be thinking, is this going to be one of those Parley where Zandy narrowly dodges a potentially porny Parley question? Surprisingly, no. Well, I guess that's up for interpretation, but I don't think so. EyePatchNotes asks, may I request the discussion on anime swimsuits, which are a curious thing. From a certain perspective, the viewer base at large desires skin. Well, I don't know about that, but we'll get back to it. One can simply invoke the rule of exposure. Though everyone's golden ratio can differ, it certainly does. To both embrace and challenge this notion, where can the, in parentheses, sexy, lines be drawn in tasteful swimwear? Ooh, tasteful swimwear. Okay, that complicates things significantly. What role in shape language would they be looking to fill out? And most importantly, what are some examples of favorite design trends that can be considered the best? Okay, an encouraging site. Good things. Excellent. All right. So in summary, you're basically asking what I think makes good fictional swimwear. In anime specifically, I just can't think of many abundant examples besides anime, but it doesn't really, I guess it isn't specific to anime. So this is a potentially large topic. The way I'm going to break it down is by talking about what I think is the most important aspect of fan service in anime, which is that it's not real, that it's not, like, what is the point of fiction, I guess. If you don't like fan service in a show, I kind of understand where you're coming from. Sometimes it's really annoying. It just gets in the way. But what I want to suggest for this discussion is that that show is just bad. It's not that fan service is inherently bad or a problem. And indeed, it's not hard, really, I don't think, to have fan service in a show be entirely unproblematic, to not get in the way of the show in any way, and just be a way for you to see the characters you like looking cool or cute, and otherwise doing their normal thing. I think there are plenty of examples of this, and there are also even more examples of shows getting it wrong. I totally get it being kind of annoying, but I would like to suggest that that isn't the nature of putting like sexy times in your show. It's that people are bad at writing it, or directors are bad at directing it, or whatever. It's not because it's inherently this like terrible thing. You could disagree with me, that's just what I'm suggesting. I would certainly like to have that thought on the table before we continue talking about this. Cool. Okay, so that being said, first let's tackle this first bit about what people think is good in fan service. See, I'm not so sure I agree about this skin or golden ratio thing, or that there are trends overall. I feel like there are kind of three different camps for good, sexy anime swimwear. The first one is realism. This one is about a thing that would look good or appeal to you, the viewer, in real life. There's nothing wrong with this. I do think the most important thing to bring up about it is that a lot of fiction, anime included, isn't really trying to look like real life, even when it is. Let me explain what I mean by that. The characters are in a different world, kind of. It has its own rules. You know, it's a microcosm, and so they are representations of themselves. They don't have to be wearing something that would be practical to move around in their world, because their world has different rules, even just by nature of being a fictional world. Even if it's just our world, but in fiction, it's more okay to. Let me give you a quick example, although I'm trying to avoid giving specific examples because it's quickly going to get out of hand for this particular parlay. I recently watched Alice in Borderland, which was cool. That was not anime, but it was fiction. And there's a part that I think I can say out of context enough that it won't be a spoiler at all, where inexplicably there's like a beach episode. Like, it's sort of the apocalypse, but there's suddenly like a large number of people are in swimsuits, and one of the main characters has like an unreasonably well chosen swimsuit for this situation that, you know, they didn't like have before. You know, like that was somehow available at the location, and it's just like perfect for that person. Obviously this isn't really meant to tell you that there's so many like bathing suits available at the venue that this person was magically able to find the perfect, whatever. Now, maybe in Alice in Borderland that's true, but anyway, not really, right? The real suggestion is like they look pretty good in the thing. It's more of a putting you in the perspective of the perspective character who sees this character in their sudden swimsuit and has a moment of, whoa, like they look really good because of the circumstances around what's happening in the show. Wasn't really thinking about how hot this character looks, but now I am. And that is like why it is a well-fitted thing. Yeah. And so likewise, a lot of the time in anime and fiction, I think that the design of a character's swimsuit is overdone, over the top, or just too much. Like you wouldn't be able to do anything in that outfit because it's sort of trying to give you the feeling of what it's like to see that character uniquely themselves in that situation. So personally, I think it's a tricky thing to want your anime swimsuit to be like a real thing, to look realistic like at all, because that's in a way sort of not the point of most fiction. Like even intentionally realistic fiction is sort of purposefully not doing that thing. I'd actually like to give you one more example that might not seem related. In One Piece. One Piece is a show with, there's too much to say, we simply don't have time, but a big thing in One Piece is that there are devil fruits throughout the ocean. And when you eat a devil fruit, you gain some kind of power, but the sea curses you, so you can't swim. You sink and lose your powers in water. It's a big trope of the show. A lot of the show is about pirate crews that are captained by a devil fruit eater that has some ability, like they can control fire or whatever, because they're, more powerful. And of course, they have that vulnerability that if they're in the water or the, salt from the sea or sea stone or things associated with the sea, deactivate their power. But with their power, a lot of devil fruit users can do things that would cause excessive nudity. It has nothing to do with the show. It's just something that would be the case if the author didn't do something about it. You can't. You can. The author chose that you can turn your clothes into your element or whatever, if that's the type of devil fruit you have. But it's not that you can. It's not that that's included in the power. It's just that, as the author said, it would just be unnecessary. Like, it's just a better show if, like, most devil fruit eaters don't just get constantly naked. Like, that would just be annoying. So he just didn't do it. It doesn't, like, really make sense in the context of the show. But you're meant to understand that, this character that bleeds poison or whatever, it's not like it needs to be on their skin. I mean, it does need to be on their skin, but I don't know, like their clothes got sweaty or something. Just stop thinking about that. It's about the concept of the fight, is the idea. If you're a person who likes thinking about that, that's fine. I feel like there are shows that embrace that. But sometimes, the point I'm trying to make with this section is simply that sometimes it goes too far, and the thing you're watching would be worse if they didn't do this thing. Likewise, if the characters are going to have, swimsuits on anyway, I think it's reasonable to just have a bit of fun and make them like sort of all over the place. But that's up to you. You could disagree. There are lots of shows that do both, that where the character designs and or swimsuits are pretty realistic, and that has its own value. I've really enjoyed some, like a thing I find a little annoying is high school shows, which is like most anime a lot of the time, have a part at least that's in high school. And the high school uniforms are just like either hideous and or this would never be a uniform. You know what I'm trying to say? And yet some of the time they're weird and outlandish, but cool. Like, it's going to be a shonen battle show and their uniform is, badass looking instead of realistic. It's fine. Whatever. It's fine with me anyway. Sometimes they're just hideous and that's annoying to me. Other times they're very realistic and they really feel like it's an actual school uniform, which can be nice, I think. It depends. That's all I'm trying to say. Again, you could disagree. That's fine, but politely irrelevant. I just wanted to put this one of these three topics out there. So yeah, the first thing, this first camp of evaluating your anime swimsuits or fictional character design in general is the relationship it has to realism. Keeping in mind that realism is sort of not the point of even realistic fiction, that necessarily. Realism should not be the be all end all, because it could ruin a series for no good reason if you pursued it single-mindedly. That's what I'm trying to say. And sometimes things are unnecessarily worse if you focus on them being realistic. So that's one thing. A second thing, which is kind of what the point of fan service even is. So we've talked about how it could be good in its own way if things were realistic or not. But what is the good thing about having fan service in the show? Well, I think that it's about playing to the strengths of the work. And fiction is often wish fulfillment or fantasy escapism. Just the same way that if you're going to have a realistic swimsuit, I want the character to have relatively realistic art direction overall. You see what I'm saying? I just feel like a lot of real looking clothing, just in fiction in general, it works better if the character looks realistic. And likewise, if you're going to have a very stylized outfit, that I can buy that more if the character is also stylized. A really good example of this is Matoi Ryuko from Kill la Kill, who spends a lot of the show in a very complicated outfit. Not overly, it's not busy. That's not what I mean. I just mean thinking about how the thing that just go look up Kill la Kill. The thing that she's wearing lines up with reality is just a bit confusing. It's complicated. And the thing about that show is that I don't find that jarring, because the whole show is like that. It's not like she looks like a normal high school student or whatever, but then her clothing is just insane. I'm not saying that's the end of the world if it happens, but personally, I feel like what I'm okay with about that show is that it plays to the strengths of that design. Kill la Kill is a show in the first place about kind of saying, oh, you're embarrassed about your fan service thing? Ha, don't drag us down with that. Like, we're going to have this ridiculous over the top outfit, and there's like a lot of nudity in that show for like almost every character. And also, not for nothing, I appreciate that it's for pretty much all of the characters. But anyway, not because I want to see all of them naked, but because I like that the show is committing to that. That's all I mean. Personally, I like how character designs in a show kind of represent or an extension of that show's aesthetic, rather than just being a character design that exists because they know it will do well on social media. Which, if that sounds weird to you, think about that as you watch shows for the next month. I think you'll find it's surprisingly common nowadays that a character design, you look at it and you think, why even? And the only reason you'll be able to produce is because they want it to become a meme. Like they want it to trend. That is the only reason. It doesn't belong in the show. It doesn't make sense for the show. Steins Gate Zero, a lot of the characters have redesigns. Daru specifically, it looks really different, but it doesn't make sense. Like you're telling me Daru just magically cares about his appearance now? Like his name is literally Daru. Darui, like lazy in Japanese. And you decided to make this character suddenly do a bunch of stuff to his... No, that doesn't make sense. I don't think it makes sense. And that does bother me. That is kind of a third wall breaking, fourth wall breaking. It breaks all the walls. Detail, when you feel like a character's appearance has changed but for like no discernible reason. To me, this is connected to the trope of characters always having a new outfit inexplicably. Sometimes only the female characters, and then comically the male character wears the same thing every single time you see them, but all the female characters have infinite outfits. Like their wardrobe is just like they have 9 million outfits, which is sort of funny, but a little distracting. A simple example of fan service maybe being a little distracting. Anyway, okay, so to get back to this thing about the show, what even the point of fan service is. The thing about the lots of outfits thing, though, is it's fun to see a character you like in lots of outfits. Like the point of the show, a lot of the time, is to hang out with the characters and see them go through something interesting or fun or whatever. And so limiting them because realism is a little... I mean, it's hard because there are shows where the character has a reasonable amount of clothes, and then you see like a shirt or something that you know they own because you saw them wear it previously show up a lot later, and it feels like they have a realistic range to their wardrobe. That is kind of cool. I personally sort of like that. I also don't mind when characters have a character design built around layers, and then the layers just sort of come off or go on, or the character has just a few outfits. A really good example of that is Persona 5, where characters like Ryuji are recontextualized without really wearing much different, just by having another layer on. In fact, it's rather unusual in my experience for that to be done on men in general. And then even the female characters generally have a few outfits. This is also sort of a practicality thing. I think a really simple answer to this question that would be boring. I'm not going to give this as the whole answer, but a really simple way to answer this question in one sentence would be quality over quantity, because a lot of shows don't do the thing. A lot of shows do neither. But I would certainly rather have a show where the character has a few outfits that I feel like, yes, this totally fits this character. I like this. This speaks to me as being this character. And it's almost like everything else they wear is just what was going to be the only outfit the character was shown wearing. I feel like Persona 5 is like that. Anne specifically really sticks out to me as having a few outfits that are all really like, this is exactly what I would expect this character to wear. And they didn't put in a bunch that aren't like that. And I'm happy they didn't. I wouldn't want more at the expense of them looking good. At the same time, my whole point with this section that I keep getting away from, because there's way too much to talk about with this topic, is that when you watch a character in fiction, some of the time it's sort of about the impossibility of the situation. Like, you're not going to do these things. It's escapism. And so having the character wear an anime swimsuit or whatever that is, to be blunt, just like impossible in real life, or it fits this category of swimsuits that do exist in real life where you can't really swim in them. They're kind of like, it's clothing to wear at the beach, but it's not, you don't actually, you like, I guess, could swim in it. Sometimes you can't even, but it's, you see what I'm trying to say. It's clothing meant to be worn at the beach. You could even say it's taking advantage of the context of a beach to wear, generally less. EyePatchNotes. You said the viewer base at large desires skin. I think just the population at large views swimsuits as we're being honest about the fact that that is often an excuse to relatively dress down. Personally, I feel like this is a good example of why being bothered by fan service just because it's sexy or it feels immature or something, it doesn't make sense to me if it isn't immature, because it's okay to just wear what you want. Like, you could wear whatever you like. To me, a more important thing about it is that the character isn't just lost. Sometimes there's this frustrating thing where characters are in a beach episode or whatever, and their personality completely changes, and you think, is it really believable that this character would be this embarrassed just because they've switched social contexts? I don't know. I mean, some people would be, but not most people, I don't think. I think we can agree. So, but anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that maybe a somewhat extravagant article of clothing for your beach episode or whatever is comparatively fine. This often happens in your gacha economy style game, where a character is sort of meant to be a characterization of themselves a little more overtly, and so their beach episode or swimsuit outfit is a little beyond what like you could ever make with a normal tailor. It's just like physically impossible, let alone something that you could actually do anything in. Just like not even humanly possible to create that garment, rather than it even being practical. That's just like long gone. And I personally think that's fine. I kind of like that, to be honest. I'm not interested in it being normal escapism. I'm usually here for fantasy. I'm here to really go somewhere different. Not always. I don't hate everything that isn't high fantasy. I'm just saying I don't think there's anything wrong with that, as long as there's a reason for it, and it's not just, again, that sort of the character design is this way just because it is this way. I don't know if that makes any sense. We're getting to the end here, and I'm working up with all of these things to what, if you're asking what I actually like, I mean, it's this stuff. I'm okay with it being like sort of out of line with reality. I sort of like the swimsuit that is just an outfit thing, the sort of casual wear, like you're just going to hang out for the day at the beach. It's not like we're not really swimming. It's just sort of an excuse to wear this thing. Personally, I like that. I think that a lot of fashion in general is basically just an excuse to wear this thing. And it's a little frustrating that we even have that situation in society. When you want to wear formal clothes, if you ever want to wear formal clothes, you kind of need an occasion, or it's just out of place and you feel like you've done something wrong everywhere, or you're like putting people out because this isn't a place people wear that or something. And that's frustrating, I think. I don't think there should be anything wrong with going to a burger place in fancy clothes if that's what you want to do for your date, for example. Not saying that's the only example at all. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a complicated discussion for another time about why we can't just wear like bikinis everywhere or something. Well, not all of us. I don't think they would suit some of us, but those of us who want to. But in short, I do feel that using the opportunity of the location as an excuse is not bad. I don't think that's that artificial. I feel like people do that in real life, and that can be nice. It's just a matter of it not feeling like the show is completely changing just because it wants to show you this thing. Again, that whole thing about, is this here just because it's bait for social media or is it because it is trying to look good? I don't know. Yeah, okay, so let's just go back to the question. I don't know how to give a conclusion for this question at all. I just thought I would talk about the subject. You asked, let's make sure we address every question mark that is in the question. This is a thing I come back to when I'm answering Parley that is either really like a very large topic or just open-ended. So you said, to both embrace and challenge this notion, where can the sexy lines be drawn in tasteful swimwear? So I think I'm afraid that what you're asking for is for me to give fashion terms for what an outfit like should or could that I would like look like, and I just don't know them. I can't do that. I think that's impossible. I think that usually with swimwear in general, they're just cut so weird a lot of the time, if they're not just like a basic thing, that there may literally not be words for how it is that way. So unless I had infinite examples, this is why I said earlier, I'm trying to be careful about how much I give examples because it will just get out of hand, and I'm only drawing attention to the fact that I don't have any. And it's not possible. That is impossible. So I think the best thing we can do is say, yeah, I mean, what appeals to me is often the swimsuit that kind of looks like a dress. I said before that I sort of think of them as like a dressing down casual wear when you were at the beach, but I don't really like the beach, just privately, let's say. So you learned something about me today. Yeah, the thing that isn't a skirt, but it just has ruffles or frills on it, I kind of like that. Your girly swimsuit, I don't hate that. The sort of halter top ones, I know some of the vaguely fashion words for these things. That's not really a fashion word. That's just something that most people besides me know. But there you go. Yeah, I think one pieces are underappreciated, or are they? Or are they coming back? Anyway, I don't know any of these things, so we'll just see what happens in the comments, right? But yeah, that's what I like. I think that flatters a relatively wide variety of body types. Personally, I think a lot of personalities can do the thing with that. But another aesthetic I like that I think is a pretty good catch-all if the frilly girly style doesn't work is the sporty swimsuit. Your like double-banded bikini thing, or all the sporty wear has like, if there are straps, there's multiple straps. They do that thing because support, I guess. I don't know. I like that. I think that looks nice. I think one of the big things, as you said, what role and shape language would they be looking to fill out, is that those things emphasize what the character looks like. And to me, the joy of the fan service is appreciating the character. And so if there's going to be fan service, we might as well have the character wear something that lets you appreciate them. I do think it can be a little frustrating, or maybe a bit of a cop out, when the character designers have the character wear like a beach dress or something, not because, oh no, how dare you not make the character naked or something, but because I think that often happens due to a lack of imagination about what that body type wears for that occasion. I have had the good fortune of meeting a lot of people that I hit it off with different body types. And I know from experience that, and this is not news to most people, I hope, that it can be very difficult to shop for things that suit a body type that is not the stereotypical body type in your society. That can be surprisingly annoying. You'd think that it wouldn't be, obviously it'd be harder than not, but it wouldn't be that bad, but it's usually surprisingly horrible. And they're like, most places you'll look just have nothing for people that have that body shape, which is deeply frustrating. Even for me, I'm just a little bit more of a slim guy than America generally makes clothes for. And it's surprisingly annoying to find things that actually, not that fit me like I can wear them, but that fit me, that are built for my body. That's what I mean. And my figure isn't even like that different from most other people. I just have a lot of friends who have a smaller cup size, for example. That just makes it surprisingly difficult. Anyway, my point is, I feel like it should be filling out, whatever the character's figure is. The worst thing you can do, I think, is make the character either look like every other character, unless they do look like every other character, or cover them up. I feel like if you're gonna do an episode where you can see people's figures, we should see them. In fact, it can be pretty interesting if you're a big fan of a show. You've probably had the experience where you just kind of irrationally want to know what the differences between characters, like the non-sexual version of this is when people want to know what height characters are for like some reason. I don't know why. I've only felt this a few times with a few different shows, but it's like it helps me fix them in my mind better because you have perspective on, if they were standing right here, how tall would they be? That kind of thing. And it's like that. I don't want you to not show that. It'd be like if everyone showed up in high heels, but they were all different heights. Why? Don't. Why would you do this? Or at least have them all take them off. I don't know. And again, it feels like if you don't do that, it's just because the character designers didn't bother, rather than that there would be anything but a positive result for doing that. So I don't know if that makes sense. Maybe that sounds needlessly picky, but yeah, there you go. There is a spoilered out part, so I'm gonna click it and read it. Absolute territory. Yeah, there really isn't a way to do this on the beach, but my backup anime swimsuit thing is somehow also leg garment. The absolute territory is a slang term for the potentially enticing gap between leg garment, like a thigh high or something, and a skirt that can be visually appealing because human psychology, I don't know. And so let's see what EyePatchNotes has to say. From a shark tooth necklace to a halter top or just gorgeous collarbones, I volunteer the neck as an attention grabber. Sure. Cool. I see where you're going with this. Anyone can wear less, but I think robust swimwear is all about adding pillars of visual interest. Okay, going back to that other parlay. Using choice bits of cloth and straps to make the aforementioned neck, a tight midriff, or thighs stand out. Perfection. Yes, this is exactly what I was saying. In so many words, I just want it to maximize what the character already is. And it can be frustrating. I'm actually happy you mentioned the shark tooth necklace thing. That can work, but sometimes the thing that I don't like is the character's outfit is just like too much them and not enough them at the same time. They're wearing a completely normal whatever for their outfit, but then they just have a bunch of accessories that don't make sense, but that ensure that you know what kind of character they are. So if you have a character that's just wearing like a normal t-shirt or whatever, but then they have, the shark tooth necklace and the beaded bracelets and the, what else? They have ankle jewelry as well. Like this character is the like relatively chill surfer, person. And you should know that. They shouldn't need to wear all that stuff to to do it. It's one thing if it looks really good is basically what I'm saying. But a lot of the time I feel like the characters just sort of they take out the detail sprinkler and just kind of boop, boop, boop some details on there, which can be less exciting. I'm not saying it's the end of the world, but it can be less exciting. What I think is better is something that I think Warframe's design does pretty well. I know this is a super weird way to go for this type of thing, but a lot of the time in Warframe designs, frame designs, the ship, really good detail I heard one time was that Tenno design, the Tenno aesthetic, is inspired by sea creatures. And if you look at the landing craft, and there's so few Tenno large objects, but yeah, Tenno weapons, they often have a sort of flowing water, swoopy sea creature motif. They look like whales. I don't know. I'm not in a bad way. I like it personally. And that's the kind of thing, that kind of subtle thing really, really appeals to me. I wish I could give you a good example of something that just makes me feel, this is a design that it abstractly, represents who the character is a little bit. But yeah, I really like that. If a character's focus is supposed to be these fine details, like, so EyePatchNotes, you said, just good collarbones. Yeah, like if you emphasize that in a character's design, the character has to have a detail that specific. You don't usually go around looking at anime characters and thinking, wow, their cheekbones are so pronounced, because they all have the same cheekbones. I mean, except when they don't, is what I mean. And you could show a character that way, and that can be really interesting. And I think that this is exactly the place for that. That's what I'm trying to say. So yeah, I don't know. Was this just like a terrible way to answer this question? I don't know. I had no idea what to do for this, and I did a few other takes, and this is what I did. Because to me, there's really no way to talk about specifically, what direction to go in. I admire EyePatchNotes that you said specific things as much as you could, but I think you've justified my sort of philosophical discussion about this, because what you've said, as specific as it is pretty much a philosophy of character design, is to make the parts of a character that are the highlights stand out, rather than to just make them like be naked. I don't know. Like, I feel like a lot of, to me, the golden ratio thing is, and no offense to you, I think it's a good place to start the discussion. You're not saying it's the be all end all. You didn't say that in your question, but to me, it's like it's sort of not interesting if that's all it is. And a lot of the time, personally, I just think that's really ugly a lot of the time. I'm a person who, in non-anime media, the standard of attractiveness that my society has shown me, I like, it's not that I prefer something else. I honestly believe that it is ugly. Like, it's repulsive to me in some way. The people who want to look like that, that's fine. Although, I wonder how many people do want to look like that versus they just think they're supposed to look like that or something. But I just genuinely don't understand why anybody would find that objectively attractive. That's what I'm trying to say. It's just, if it's just what people gave you and you're just getting what people gave you, then this is none of you. This is the outside world. We here in our sphere of tasteful anime swimwear, of course, we have nothing to do with this, but I just don't understand. It just isn't appealing to me somehow. And I think the biggest reason is that it forgoes whatever the particulars of a person are to emphasize things that supposedly everybody likes instead. It says, I don't know what clothes specifically suit me, so I'm just going to wear something that my culture told me everybody likes and hope it works. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. It doesn't look good. And in anime, because it's fiction that is drawn, I think what happens is if you do that, if there aren't specific things, rather than it being that the swimsuit or the character design or whatever doesn't work for the character, you're drawing the character. So you're just going to draw them so it works. And what that's going to mean is that every character is going to look exactly the same. And if you watch a fan service scene and you look at it and you think, wow, this is a really annoying, boring fan service scene, and you liked those characters in some regard, look at them closer. Have they all become like kind of the same? Are they all eerily similar body types? I think they are most of the time. And I think that's why it doesn't work well, because it's really not them. That's what I mean. You can have the over the top one. And the reason I like that, the overdone swimsuit, is because it's undeniably the character. It, like, if I like the character, I don't know, like, it's them. So I hope I've convinced you somehow. That's my thanks for coming to my 35-minute long argument about why fan service isn't always bad. It's more society expectations that are. It's more doing it for the sake of it that is. Find something good or don't find something at all. But of course, this is how these things happen. If the beach episode is written into the schedule, then to the beach we shall go, and not everybody's going to be able to just instantly get something that fits them. Fair enough. Character designer that tried to design something for your petite sort of pear figure, but like really cute female character, I sympathize. But you gotta try. You just gotta try. And I'll take you at your word for it. I'm sure you did. It's very hard. That's what I got. Best of luck out there, folks. I'm sure there's several hundred actual character designers who will be drawing anime swimsuits for beach episodes watching this right now. There's no doubt in my mind, really.